How long are you planning to live?
Even if the love had completely faded, could someone really say such a thing to their wife, who had just been given a 6-month prognosis? I was beyond angry and shocked. I was utterly dumbfounded. What? You do realize the prognosis is yours, right?
What?
My name is Julie. I believe aging gracefully is an eternal theme for both men and women. I've turned 60, but I haven't forgotten to stay stylish as a woman. Not for my husband. When I look in the mirror and see that my hair, makeup, and outfit are all on point, it lifts my spirits. At work, people are surprised to hear I'm 60 and say, "You don't look it," which is nice to hear. The relationship with my husband has already gone cold, and I often ask myself why I married such a man. I'm working hard in the editorial department of a comic book publisher. My husband isn't a big earner, yet he opposes me working. Seeing him confidently saying men hunt, women do chores, just makes me sigh. It's like he's time traveled from the Stone Age, not just showing vestige of the past. I want to tell him that even in the animal kingdom, it's the lionesses that hunt. I find my work rewarding, advising aspiring young cartoonists with big dreams, and thinking up compelling characters and intriguing stories. The 60s are the new young. The idea that turning 60 means old is outdated, I think. But my husband is different.
When will you stop working? You're already 60, which could have meant being abandoned somewhere in another environment.
I was furious, but I backed down because my husband never yields in an argument. What era are you talking about?
I won't forgive you if you neglect housework for work.
He seriously believes housework is a wife's job. Doesn't my husband know the common sense of modern society? My husband is the worst kind, not just a believer in male superiority, but also weak for young beauties. I graduated from college and landed my current job. I dreamed of becoming a cartoonist until high school, but gave up due to lack of artistic skill. That's why I want to support those chasing their dreams. I get so engrossed in work that before I knew it, I was 40. I was approached by relatives with a marriage proposal, and I too had dreams of married life. Marriage is crucial in life. One shouldn't rush it. However, fearing I'd remain single forever, I panicked and agreed to meet my now husband, George, at 41. Back then, George hid his true nature, acting like a kind gentleman. Since we were both over 40, neither of us planned to quit working, so we have no children. My parents, in their 80s, unlike my husband, are attuned to the times and never pressure me for grandchildren. Many women want children but can't have them. My parents understand that pressuring for grandchildren or asking about kids can be burdensome. Lately, my husband has been frequently using his smartphone and whispering on calls. I suspected infidelity, but felt no anger, perhaps a sign my love has completely cooled off. Once, my mother-in-law, Nancy, who lives nearby, visited us. Her husband, Ron, passed away 3 years ago, and now she lives alone. Nancy is 85 but always carries herself with authority, and even my husband can't stand up to her. It's not out of respect, though. It's probably for her money.
That old lady is so cheap. She must have around $200,000 saved up. I'm an only child, so I'll inherit everything. I wish she'd hurry up and kick the bucket.
I couldn't believe my ears at such an appalling statement. There are things you should and shouldn't say.
I need to be nice to her, even if it's just pretend. Or she might do something crazy like leave all her money to a charity in her will.
Just then, my mother-in-law, Nancy, appeared from the next room.
Sorry for being so cheap.
Mom,
My husband turned pale and lashed out at me.
idiot. Why didn't you tell me she was here?
Keep it down. Don't yell like that. You're disturbing the neighbors.
With no excuse for his insults, my husband just hung his head in silence. While my husband was taking a shower to get away from her, my mother-in-law asked me,
How long has it been like this between you two? This seems more serious than just a rough patch.
I just smiled wryly and said, Can you tell?
Julie, if it becomes unbearable, divorce is an option. There's a saying about the suffering of having to deal with someone you dislike, and I suppose the agony of having to meet someone you don't want to see is unbearable. Living with someone you hate is tough. You don't have to consider my feelings.
Her kindness touched me deeply. She's so knowledgeable and cultured. It's hard to believe she's related to him. Maybe my husband really did time travel from the Stone Age. He had a health checkup at work this year, and apparently, there were some concerns. Maybe it's his age, 61, or his unhealthy lifestyle taking a toll. He often comes home late and drunk. He says he was out drinking at a bar with colleagues, but I know he's been going to strip clubs. Never underestimate a wife's intuition. He went for a follow-up at the hospital, and one day we got a call from there. The doctor said, before I talk to him, I'd like to discuss something with the family first. It felt like a scene from a TV series, and I had a bad feeling. What the doctor told me at the hospital was shocking. 6 months to live. The prognosis of my husband's 6-month life expectancy sent a whirlwind of emotions through me. I was surprised at my lack of shock, felt a bit of pity, and even a sense of relief, which I then berated myself for as being heartlessly cold. A normal wife would be devastated to hear her husband had only 6 months to live, and there I was, acting it out. Could there be some mistake?
Unfortunately, you should prepare yourself. Whether to tell him depends on his personality, and you know your husband best.
What about his personality?
If he's the type to despair and act recklessly, breaking the news suddenly is dangerous. But if he's optimistic and strong-willed, it might be better to tell him.
It was clear that hearing he had only 6 months to live would drive him to despair. Yet continuing to visit strip clubs and drink, oblivious to his condition, is not good either. I came home feeling gloomy, but concluded that I should tell him. That night, when my husband came home, I said, "There's something important I need to talk to you about."
What is it now? You know I'm busy.
I'm busy too.
You're just making yourself busy. If you hate being busy, just quit your job. Really, it's shameful for a man to have his wife work. It makes it seem like I can't earn enough.
I was taken aback by his outdated views. He seems unaware that most households now have both partners working, and stay-at-home wives are less common. I went to the hospital today.
Hospital.
Listen carefully, please.
Stop beating around the bush. I'm telling you, I'm busy.
In frustration, I blurted it out. I heard 6 months to live. He looked at me seriously for a few seconds, then laughed, covering his mouth.
6 months to live.
Yes, calm down and don't do anything rash.
Idiot, who's going to be rash? Don't be so full of yourself. Don't underestimate me.
It seemed he was indeed shocked, as his words were nonsensical.
Well, it's probably karma, given usual behavior.
I was surprised he was aware. So you should really cut back on the drinking.
Shut it. Drinking is part of the job for a businessman. You women think it's all play. I'm going to keep going out.
You should stop. Come straight home after work. Then he smiled broadly.
Wait, don't tell me you want more time together because of the 6 months to live.
I hadn't thought of that, but I played the part of a dutiful wife. Of course, I want more time, just the two of us.
Don't be silly. I'm not that free.
George. Despite the gravity of the situation, he cut me off.
That's it. End of discussion. We're done here. Time is money, and I can't waste it on pointless chatter with you.
I was astounded at how easily he could hurt someone. But considering it might be a shock reaction, I said nothing more. Worried he might be down, I checked on him in his study. He was on a call.
Suzanne, it might be bad luck to say it, but my wife got the news at the hospital today. 6 months to live. Didn't catch the disease, but it's terminal, probably cancer.
I couldn't grasp what he was saying at first.
Just endure half a year. She's got life insurance, and Mom is 85, so she'll be gone soon. After the wife kicks the bucket, Suzanne, let's live together. I want a do-over in life.
I was shocked. He had a terrible misunderstanding. But hearing his conversation with Suzanne, my anger peaked. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. There's a limit to how much you can mock someone. I couldn't forgive him for even speaking that way about his own mother. In a chilling voice, I muttered, "Fine, live with your misunderstanding. Though for you, a lifetime is just 6 months." After our talk about his life expectancy, he didn't just come home late. There were many nights he didn't return at all. Claiming to be on business trips, he even went on vacations. I was appalled. My husband started dressing flashily, buying expensive watches, and splurging daily. He's also been buying lots of gifts. He doesn't have money to spare. Is he counting on the life insurance after I die? That's just low. 3 months have passed since the life expectancy announcement. Seeing my husband looking pale, I asked him, "Are you feeling okay?"
I've been feeling sluggish and tired lately. Just climbing the stairs at the office leaves me breathless. Maybe it's my age.
You should cut back on the alcohol.
Shut up. I've said drinking is part of my job in sales. If all you can do is depress me, then just drop dead.
I was furious, but I deliberately didn't retort.
Nagging women are the worst. You and that old hack should just drop dead.
Behind my husband, spewing insults, stood his mother.
Old hag, are you talking about me?
Whoa, you scared me.
He glared at me with a fearful look, but his mother asked again.
Old hag, are you talking about me?
No, wait, Mom. I've never called you that. There's this annoying boss at work named Olga.
Olga, huh?
Unable to meet the suspicious gaze of his mother, my husband looked down. My husband, who seemed to want to complain about me not telling him his mother was there, just walked away. 4 months post-diagnosis. He's been coughing more, taking more days off work, and despite previously having high blood pressure, now it's low. He gets dizzy and almost fell down the stairs. Yet, he still goes on business trips, planning to spend his last days not with his wife, but with his mistress. But knowing he's romping around with a mistress while thinking his wife only has a few months to live makes sympathy hard to muster. He complains of cold hands and feet even on warm days, and says he's in pain all over. If you're feeling unwell, you should cancel your business trips.
Don't meddle in my work. Those trips are the only thing I look forward to. I mean, they're important, and I'm the only one who can do them.
Should I call your office and ask your boss to excuse you from the trips? As expected, he exploded in anger.
Just try. I will never forgive you.
I had to suppress a laugh. I felt pity for my self-inflicted husband, but was conflicted about telling my mother-in-law, Nancy, the truth. She's been kind to me since we were newlyweds. Then an unexpected visitor arrived. A young woman I'd never seen before. Pardon me, but who's visiting?
My name is Suzanne. Nice to meet you.
Suzanne. Could she be my husband's mistress? The audacity to come to her home had me on high alert.
I'll get straight to the point. Please release George, your husband.
Release him? While conversing, I was honestly astonished. Even from a woman's perspective, Suzanne was stunningly beautiful, charming, with great style and fashion sense. I couldn't fathom why such an attractive woman would be involved with my husband. He's not wealthy, so it can't be for his money. Surely, it can't be true love either. So, is this a scam?
George is suffering. I think it's due to stress, so could you please divorce him?
I couldn't help but smirk at her audacity before replying. What you're doing could be against the law. Isn't it absurd to discuss such matters so openly with the lawful wife? Yet, she was undaunted.
People sometimes meet their soulmates after marriage. It's foolish to be bound by the formality of marriage in such cases. Life is too short after all.
I realized. Continuing this conversation might make me lose my composure, so I ended it with a smile. He's already been released from heaven. Whether he's going to heaven or hell, I'm not the judge to say. She looked momentarily stunned, then laughed brightly.
Judge of the afterlife, you're funny.
I'm not funny at all. By the way, how old are you?
I'm 29.
29, still in her 20s. It made my head spin. The age gap was more than 30 years. I couldn't hide my surprise. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
He visited the place where I work. He's incredibly kind, a really good person.
Are you with my husband out of genuine affection?
Of course, George is tough and skilled.
Stop. I glared at her with a smile. If you keep talking, I'll really strangle you.
Haha.
This is no laughing matter. Suzanne stared at me silently for a few seconds before speaking.
Meeting you for the first time today, you're nothing like I imagined. Honestly, I'm surprised.
Did my husband talk bad about me, calling me a witch or something? Suzanne laughed.
He never spoke ill of you. I just didn't expect you to be such a wonderful person.
I wasn't about to take pleasure in being complimented by his mistress, but I started to feel that Suzanne wasn't all bad. It's hard to like the mistress on principle, but I could see how such a woman could easily charm that fossilized, dried-up man. True love, but soon, the moment will come when your feelings will truly be tested.
What?
Her puzzled tilt of the head was quite charming. I harbored no regrets about my husband ensnared by this siren, but I felt a twinge of sympathy for her. It's been almost 6 months since the diagnosis. My husband looked pale and missed work again today, but seeing me return home full of energy, he sneered.
How long are you planning to live?
Even if our love had completely cooled, could anyone really say that to a wife who's been given 6 months to live? I contained my anger, maintaining my composure.
Really, you and that old lady are tough as nails. Hated by some, loved by others.
Forget about me. Just stop speaking ill of your mother. Suddenly, he exploded in anger.
Stop that. Who are you to tell me what to do? Oh, I get it. With your time running short, you've got nothing to lose. So before I die, let me speak my mind. Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life.
Those were the words he should never have said. He had crossed the line. Anger surged within me, and I blurted out, "Is that your final statement?"
Final statement. Wait, you haven't written some weird will, have you?
Have you written a will? It's been 6 months since your diagnosis.
What nonsense are you talking about? You're the one with the limited time left. Have you gone mad because it's the end stage?
I was beyond anger and shock. I was utterly dumbfounded. What, the limited time is yours? You know.
What?
For a moment, he looked serious and stiffened, then sneered.
You should be hospitalized. We're not even on the same page here. Go to the hospital today.
With that, he stormed into his study. The next morning, he collapsed in the house. I immediately called an ambulance and informed his mother before heading to the hospital. After the examination, my husband, having learned the truth, was furious and yelled at me in front of the doctors and nurses.
Why didn't you tell me something this important?
I did 6 months ago.
Don't lie, because the one with limited time is you.
Recalling the conversation from half a year ago, my husband was bewildered. Back then, I never specified who received the prognosis.
So, You took advantage of my misunderstanding, you devil.
This is a hospital. Please be quiet.
Outsiders, back off. Are you all in this together?
He pointed at the doctor and nurses, becoming entangled. It was a chaotic scene, and my husband was almost hysterical.
That's enough. If I get hospitalized here, I'll be assassinated.
That's an exaggeration.
Shut up. I can't trust any of you.
He broke free from the nurse's restraint and fled the room. I had no intention of stopping him. I apologized on behalf of my husband for his rude outbursts to the doctor and nurses, then went home. A few days later, my husband returned home, looking pale as a ghost. After telling Susan the truth, she apparently broke up with him. I wondered if it was too much for her as I pictured Suzanne's face. It would have been better if it was just a breakup, but Suzanne was married. It's not uncommon for strip club workers to lie about being single while being married. Suzanne's husband was in prison and seemed to have been recently released. Caught in her affair, Suzanne had blurted out about my husband.
Help me. I'm being threatened to be thrown into the sea alive.
How am I supposed to help you from such a dangerous person?
You're so calm about your husband's crisis.
Which is ironic coming from him. Planning to flee the country.
I don't have the money for that.
It seems he had spent all his savings counting on the insurance money after 6 months. Frequent trips, or rather, vacations with Suzanne, probably meant he paid for everything, so it's no surprise his fortune dwindled so fast.
Please, can you lend me some money?
I don't have any, I replied coldly.
Then borrow it from Mom. She won't lend me any, that stingy old lady.
Why don't you borrow it from Olga?
Yikes.
Shocked like a comic book character, he glared at me.
That's why I tell you to let me know when she's around. Is this on purpose?
Well, you only had 6 months anyway. Oh, that was half a year ago, so your time must be almost up, right?
I was shocked by these cold words, and my husband was lost for words at his mother's statement.
Is that something you say to your own son?
How many times have you said that about your own mother?
My husband was left speechless by this retort.
George, you need to sincerely apologize to Julie. We'll talk after that.
But my husband, unable to let go of his pride, shouted,
This is my house. Get out. I don't want to see your faces anymore.
Julie, let's go.
What?
George, I am disappointed in you. I'm cutting ties with you. I will live with my daughter.
Daughter.
My husband has no siblings. I was shocked, thinking of a hidden child, but his mother said,
Julie is my daughter. Do you have a problem with that?
Nancy. My husband was dumbfounded by the unexpected revelation. I almost cried but managed to hold back. My husband and his mother were blood relatives. If my husband and I separated, she and I would become strangers. Yet, she called me her daughter. I had felt this since we got married. She had always treated me like her own daughter. Her affection was genuine. My husband, pale-faced, glared at his mother.
What nonsense are you spouting? It's between your real son and your daughter-in-law. It's clear who's more important.
Of course, without a second's hesitation, I choose my real daughter, Julie. A man who cheats and brazenly justifies it is not my child.
Feeling the unwavering resolve in his mother's words, my husband walked away silently like a ghost into his study. I quickly packed and moved in with my mother-in-law. Fortunately, I had a job, and as my husband said, Nancy had savings. With her advice, I officially divorced and completely severed ties. Despite his self-made misfortune, I wondered if my husband would be all right. Thinking coldly about whether the Thigs or the Reaper would get to him first scared me. Instead, I found myself worrying about Suzanne's safety. Whether this was the right outcome, I couldn't say. Marriage means strangers living together. Love is what matters most. When love fades, the end comes quickly. I pondered if this marriage was a mistake, but not entirely. I met my mother-in-law. We continue to live happily, like a real mother and daughter. My parents were initially surprised but understood everything after I recounted the tumultuous 6 months. Now I am happy. Happiness is not something given by others. It's something you must claim for yourself. Men often vow to a fiancé's parents, "I will make your daughter happy." But happiness is not something a man gives. It's found within oneself. My heart holds endless potential. I believe in my strength and continue to live.